Good afternoon, everybody. So today we'll do a couple of things. We will finish up or wrap up lesson 9, which is the movie poster assignment. And there's a couple of things that they want us to do in here, uh, applying filters and adjustment layers to various things, and creating layer masks, and enlarging images, and a whole bunch of different things. And I'm going to show you, especially with the first part of this, where we apply filters and adjustment layers, the way that they have us do it. And then I'm going to show you how I would do it a little differently. So first part is going to be like the book. Second part will be not like the book. It's going to be how I would approach it if I were doing it as opposed to the textbook. So this is where we left off. We created our monster on Monday. So what I want to open up next is they have this little image here of a headstone. And the first thing that they want us to do is to, we did this in lesson 4, we applied the clouds to it to give it kind of a different kind of look, aesthetic appearance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and assign the foreground and background colors to the default colors. And you just do that by, if you haven't done that before, click on this little icon right over here to the left. I don't know if you can see that. And then if you ever want to reverse them, you can do that. Okay, so I have black foreground, white background. And now what we're going to do is we're going to apply that filter to it. And it's filter, and it's under render, and it is difference clouds. And there you go. That's all there is to it. But the thing that I want to caution you about, and this is what how I'm going to change this up a little bit later, is that anytime you apply a filter, it is a permanent change. It is destructive. Now, what they will be having us use in here is, I should clear all of this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go all the way back to the opening because I've already done a bunch of these to practice this. So these are this is our history panel, and it allows you to undo at various steps. But there are limits to it because you can only do so many steps. So let me close that up and you'll see what I mean. You can see that there is a history going on here. Okay, that I can go back to any step in time here and bring back what I've done before, as long as that history is visible. But if I go all the way back here and go back to the beginning, and I do this again, notice that that history is going to be gone. So if I go back up to filter again, and I come down to render, and I select different clouds, now when I look at the history, you can see that all of those other features that I had added to this are gone. So that's one of the things that I don't like about the history panel. Well, I mean, it can be nice if you want to backtrack and undo several steps. But on the downside, it is destructive. That also, another thing is that it used to be the case, I don't know if it's still the case, that you would only have 20 steps and then it would start over again. They may have increased that, or we can increase that in preferences or something, but it's so rare that I use the history panel now, or I try to avoid using it, that I'm not sure. So the next thing that they want us to apply to this, and you'll see that as we do, add each of these filters, that it adds another step. And that's uniquely different from using the adjustment layers, which are non-destructive. So if I come back up to filter again, and I go to blur gallery, and we add the iris blur. Okay, so here I'll go ahead and I'll move the center up here a little bit. And we have, that's pretty good. That's a good blur. Okay, so we're really focusing on the IRP or RIP here, rest in peace. And then I can go ahead and I'll click OK on that. Okay, so you can see that rest in peace is sharp, but everything around it is blurred. The next thing that they want us to do is add kind of brightness contrast. Now that is a non-destructive feature, so I can go to brightness contrast. And we're going to go ahead and increase the brightness up to 70. Really crank it up. Okay. Why are we doing this? Just because right now the textbook is telling us to do it. And I think it's useful for you to see some of the things that you can do, different ways of adjusting kind of mundane photographs. And that's something that you should take into consideration when you're doing any of the remaining projects in our class, especially the movie poster. You can take a bunch of humdrum images and turn them into something really unique, something and sometimes spectacular by adding, you know, various effects and filters and you name it, you know, in combination with one another. And you can also go overboard with them too, you know, having said that. So the next thing that they want us to do is we're going to use, again, another adjustment layer. And we're going to use the channel mixer here. And what I want to select first is I'm going to select the, yeah, I do want to select the green. So we're going to take the green and we're going to adjust the green here down to 37. I'm looking at the book here because I can't remember their numbers. Okay. And then we're going to switch to the blue and we're going to switch to blue and we're going to adjust it to 108. Okay. So let's go to 108 and see what we have here. And it's not what they have. So I goofed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reset it. And I'm going to take it back. Let's go back up here again and let me select the green because we have red, green, blue. And I want to make sure that all of this is reset. So the green is set to 100. And I want to go back and reset it to 37. And then what I need to do, and well, let's take the blue value and crank it up to 108. There we go. So I guess we are just going to the green channel and that's it. And we're really cranking up the green values in here. Okay. So that's pretty much it. And then we're going to use a black and white adjustment layer on top of that, I believe. So hold on here. No, we're going to use the exposure. That's what we did for the channel mixer. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the exposure icon. We're going to add that. So that's another one that we have here. Let's see the exposure icon. I don't ever use that one. It's pretty rare that I use it. So which one is that? Is that this one? No, that's a photo filter. It's this one right here. That's the exposure filter. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to crank that up to 90 to really, really pop, make it pop. Okay. Whoops. 0.90. I should have looked a little bit more carefully. Not 90. 0.90. There we go. Okay. So you get a pretty dramatic effect in all of that. But now what they want us to do is to undo some of these effects. And if I click here in the history panel, we can see all of the effects that we've added. So what we want to do though, is we're going to use, we're going to go back and we're going to go all the way back to the blur gallery. So I'm going to go all the way back here and it takes us back to that. And again, if I continue on top of that, so far those filters that I was telling you about aren't destructive because I was able to undo. But if you use up your entire history, or if I continue through here now, I have undone all of those. I can't get back to them if I want to. So what we can do again is we can go ahead and we can, let's see, I've got that state. Now I'm going to come back here again, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to the cloud difference again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add noise. And the noise filter is, again, a filter up here. And again, you find it under noise, and I'm going to say add noise. And it gives it kind of a grainy quality. So if I move this down like so, okay, it's going to add noise. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to crank this up to, oh, it's kind of low. They just want us to add, I'm going to make it, instead of uniform, I'm going to make it Gaussian. And they just want us to add maybe 3%. It really depends on how grainy you want your image to look. It's also, it is a useful feature, adding noise, especially when you're working on old photographs. And it has, the old photograph has a grainy quality to it. And you're trying to combine a nude photograph with the old one. Sometimes to get them to match, even if they're black and white images, you need to match the texture. And so adding the grainy quality to the new photograph to make it look like the old one sometimes can be very useful. So there we go. We've added the graininess to it, and we're set to go. We have one more thing to do to this. What they want us to do is we're going to add a lighting effect. And again, this is a destructive feature. So I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to lighting. Where is it? Where's my lighting? Not liquefy, lens correction, vanishing point. This is something that I rarely use too. It might be under render. Yeah, it's under lighting effects, under render. I'm going to go right here. Okay. So here's our lighting effect. You can see that it has changed somewhat. It's set the spotlight. I'm going to switch to, we have some effects here that we can use. And I want to change this to we have flashlight. So not a spotlight, but we have some preset ones here. So let's see if I can't select from here and bring that in. So let's go to texture. No, we're not going to change that. Oh my gosh, where is it? Oh, down here, lights. So no, I'm going to go ahead and change this. It should be flashlight. That's the one that I want. Well, let's use a point light for a moment. Let's change the size of this. And let's move this up like so. Okay. And I should be able to change the ambient light for this. So here's we can change the exposure. So if we want to bump this up a little bit, we can. We can change the ambient effect, ambient light, and ambient effect. We can do that. If I could find the darn flashlight feature, we could do that as well. So that's pretty much all they want us to do. Okay. So when I'm done, I can click OK. And we're good to go. But you'll notice, and this is the important part, notice that everything that I did on here is on this one layer. That for me is not good. I get so, I mean, you can tell by all of my demonstrations how many mistakes I make. And when I'm doing this, projects for myself or a client, same thing, I make lots of mistakes. And based on my prior experience as a commercial illustrator, it's fairly common for illustrators and commercial artists to have to make adjustments, the clients, for whatever reason, don't like what they've done and they want you to make the changes. So if you've made these permanent changes, you might have to start over again. And I hate doing that. I just hate doing that with a passion. So I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to do it my way. And I'm not going to do it completely how they've done it, but you'll get the basic idea. Because as I said, many of these features, especially the filters, are destructive. And there's a workaround, a way around that. And that's what I want to show you. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to revert to the previous saved version. So I'm back to where I started here. And I'm just going to click to open here, and I can do that. I'm going to close it. So what I like to do, which I've said a number of times, is I'm going to go ahead and hit Command J to make a copy of that background layer. So I can always jump back to my original. The next thing that I'm going to do with this copy, this layer that I have as a copy, is I'm going to go to Layer, and I'm going to go to Smart Objects, and I'm going to say Convert to Smart Object. Now, that's the critical part here. There's some things that you can do with smart objects and some things that you can't. That, you know, if I want to apply a filter to this, I may not be able to. So if I, you know, there might be certain adjustment layers that are grayed out, but right now they're not. So that's good. I'll leave it on properties for the moment. But now watch what happens when I apply a filter. So if I go to Filter and I go to, let's say, the first thing that we did was to render the clouds. So if I go to Render, Clouds Difference, boom, I did that. But now notice what happens. That effect or filter is now in a sublayer underneath that smart object. And so I can turn off all filters, turn them back on, or if I click on Cloud Difference, I can bring, you know, every time I double click on it, notice that I get a different cloud pattern. So it's applying the same effect again and again. The same thing that I can, you know, I can do the same thing for the other filters as well. So the next one that we applied under Blur Gallery was the iris blur. Okay, and we have that, and I'll move that up here. I'm just going to leave these default settings here. And I'm going to move my head around here a little bit. I'm going to click OK. And now you'll also notice that we have Blur Gallery here. So again, I can turn that off. I can turn it back on. So I'm working in a non-destructive fashion right now. And if I double click on Blur Gallery, that will bring it back up so that I can edit it, in fact. Whereas I couldn't have done that before. I could go back in history, but I would still have to apply the effect again. Okay, so that's an advantage to working with smart objects. So let's go ahead and we'll apply one of the other ones. Now, brightness and contrast was already something that we had that is here that is non-destructive. So that just applies it on top of that. So now we can come back again and we can really crank up the brightness here, you know, really increase this quite a bit. Let's go all the way up. They wanted it to be about 70 or so. 72 is close enough. Okay, and then they want us to apply another adjustment layer. They wanted us to apply the color mixer here. And they wanted us to make sure that we're on the green channel. And we're going to drop this down to 37. Because it's going to be a different kind of green, that's all. So we go to 37. And we change the blue, and we crank that up to 108. Okay, so you get the idea of what I'm doing here. These adjustment layers are editable. The filters, only because I have combined all of this, or I've turn this layer into a smart object, make it non-destructive. So I can come back and I can turn off all the filters. Okay, and if I were to add the light effect on here as well, we could do the same thing. So with this layer selected, let's do that as our last thing here. And I'm going to leave all of these effects intact. So I'll go to filter, and we'll go to render, and we're going to go to lighting effects. And let's try that again. I'm going to go ahead here, and I'll use a point light. Okay. And we can just affect that area here so that that's affected and none other than that. If we want to colorize it, we could. If we wanted to give it a little bit of a yellow glow, a gloss, metallic feel, we can add the ambiance, as I said, or a texture if we wish. Okay, so that's the point light. If I were to switch to a spotlight, notice very different. And I can go ahead and I can change, how this affects everything. And I can also affect the intensity of it. So there are different lights to play with here. Okay. Now, before, when I was doing this the way the book did it, I'm just going to click OK, because that's good enough for our purposes right now. Okay. So we go back here, and you'll notice that we have lighting effects. So I can turn that on and turn it off. Okay. Now I'm ready to bring this over. And also notice that lighting effects really slow down the computer quite a bit, processor. But now I'm ready to bring this over to our other finished file here. So what I want to do is that I don't want to drag one layer over at a time. If I consider this for the moment finished, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select all the layers. And I've done this before, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key and select all of these, except for the background layer that I have here. And maybe let's go ahead and see if I can't. Yeah, there we go. So that's all of those. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift, Option, Command, E. Okay, and notice what I did. When I turn all of the rest of these off, I have a combination layer of all of those effects that are not, it's basically the same as flattening it, but it leaves all the previous layers that I created intact. So what you can do now by doing it this way is you can create multiple versions for yourself without any muss or fuss, without having to redo anything. And it's this one layer is the only layer that I need to bring over, and that's it. So here's, I can take that layer, use the move tool. We can go to lessons working file, and I can drag it down here like so. Yep, I want to go ahead and I want to do that. Let's go ahead and bring it in. And so there we go. We've got it in here. Okay. And again, you can always go back to the original, and I've worked in a non-destructive fashion. So we're good to go. So the last thing that we have to do for this are the faces. And this is something that I caution you against doing, or just be very careful. Because this is an important image in our poster, if it's a little grainy, it's okay, but you do need to be very careful. So what we're going to do is we're going to enlarge it, because if we were to look at this and we look at it in image size here, okay, so right now I have resampling turned off. And you can see that the size of the image is only 3 by 4 inches. It's not very big, and that's at 72 pixels per inch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on resample. And to be perfectly honest, I've forgotten, because we want to go from we're going to increase from inches to percentages here. Let's go to percentage. And we're going to change this from 100% to 400%. Okay. And we're going to, by doing that, it's going to resample. And resample has really improved over the years. In the past, by increasing the scale of this after it had been scanned or we got it off the internet or whatever, 72 pixels per inch would be totally unusable. But now what we can do is I can change this, and I have the width and the height linked to one another. So I'm going to change it to 400%. Okay. Now, what I want to do under the resample is make sure that, here, that it says preserve details in enlargement is selected. And by doing that, I can adjust the noise, because if I turn that off, now I don't know how well you can see on my screen. You can see how blurry and how pixelated this image is. So by cranking that up, by making sure, number one, that preserve details in enlargement is selected, about 85% is pretty good. It smooths it out. For this type of image, it will work just fine. Okay. So notice it makes it considerably larger, but when we bring it over to the other image, it won't. The next thing that we want to do before I bring it over, we could do it while it's over there, but I'm going to do it now, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this layer, and I'm going to apply a black and white adjustment layer to it. And then again, departing from the book, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine these layers again and hit Shift Option Command E to make sure that I have, everything intact, but I still have a flattened layer on top of everything. So that Shift Option Command E. So here's my black and white image that I can bring over here. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to drag it over to my lessons working file. And I'm going to do one more thing to it. So now that I brought this over and I bring it in like so. Okay. What I want to do on top of this is that I want to create a layer mask on top of this. Okay. So actually, probably what I should have done, I'm going to turn this off for a minute. Probably what I should have done first to do it the way the book does it, because they soften it a little bit. And there are a couple of different ways that you can do it this way too. I'm going to go ahead and select the elliptical marquee and click and drag like so. So it's about the size that they've given us. And I want to feather this so that I get a soft edge, and they want it to be 50 pixels. That's a pretty significant blur. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my face image, and I'm going to select all, and I'm going to copy. And now I'm going to go back to my working file. And because I want that image pasted inside that, I'm going to go ahead and go edit. And I'm going to say paste special, paste in place. And that didn't work. I'm going to go back and I want it to be edit, paste special. I want it to be pasted into. So why isn't it pasting it in? Oh, because I have the wrong layer selected. Okay. So let me, because that layer is turned off. Let me go ahead and I'm going to create a brand new layer. I goofed. So let's go ahead and create a brand new layer. And I'm going to go back again and I'm going to go to edit. And I want it to be pasted into, is what I want it to do. Edit. And I'm going to go to paste special. Now I can paste into it. Boom. There you go. So now I can adjust the size of them. Notice that it's created a layer mask for it. Now this should be feathered. So I'm going to go ahead and feather this even more. Let's crank that up. That allows me to do that now. I couldn't do that before. they wanted a significant, you know, blurred edge. So there they are. And let me go ahead and select them inside that mask and hit Command T so that I can scale this down a little bit inside the mask. And that works pretty good. Okay. So that's where we have that. And now the last thing that they want us to do, and this again is non-destructive, all of what we've done so far in this portion of our project is after the headstone has been non-destructive. So I'm going to go ahead now and adjust the opacity of this a little bit. And you can see that they're really kind of unnecessary elements of this poster. I guess they're okay. We can use the move tool to move them around if we want, because they're on their own layer. Now you have to remember, see what the image inside the mask is not linked to the mask. So I'm gonna need to make sure that I click in between those two to link them together. And now when I move them, they move together. So if at any time you want to move either the mask or the image within the mask, you can unlink them and make adjustments accordingly. Right now, they behave as a single unit. So there we have it. We've finished our little movie poster. I don't know if this gives you some ideas for your project, but that's pretty much it. So we have time for the critique. We've used up about 35, 40 minutes of our hour together. So that's what we're going to do, unless there are some questions. No? I think, the history panel can be useful, but I would not rely on it because it's easy to get, and this is what happens with me, I get really focused on what I'm working on, and I forget about how many steps I've done. And you do run out of steps, and as I said, it starts over again. And that is not good because then you're thinking that you can always hit Command Z and undo, and you won't be able to. So I think it's better that as you're working, you think in a non-destructive way so that you can always, typically from layers, undo, or if you go back to the original image, either to faces, or if you go back to the other one, if we go back to the tombstone, I can turn on and off layers as I wish. Yeah, it's a fair example of the question is from Giovanni, is this lesson an example of your movie poster assignment? Yes and no. Yes, that it is a movie poster and that it's about the proper format. It's, it should be 11 by 17. And it should be between 200 and 300 pixels per inch. But unless you can tell me a story about your movie poster that relates to you and your life, then no, it doesn't follow the concept. If it's just, a movie poster for the sake of doing a movie poster, then no. I want it to have some aspect about your life so that it forces you to deal with that as the subject. It can be very obscure, and it can be, as I said, not about your entire life. It can be about one aspect about your life. It could be a single event. It could be you and your alter ego. It could be, I don't know, you and your relationship to your dog, because that was one of the things a while back that I started off. I said that maybe because my dog Bagel has been such an important part of my life for the past couple of years, that could be the subject of my movie poster. Okay. So I've answered that one. How about the other one? When is the assignment due? Not for a couple of weeks. It's basically a midterm assignment. So I usually have it due about the 10th week of class. And I think this is the 8th week. Midterm is the 9th week. So not for another couple of weeks yet. Okay. And then the last one by Markeisha. Couldn't you just change the opacity in the pick of a couple instead of feathering it? No, because that will leave the hard edge. So let me go back and I will show you. Now there is another way to do that. See, by changing the opacity, it changes the entire opacity of the whole thing, including the mask. But there is another way of doing this. Let me turn this. Let me come back to this. Well, let me see if I can't finish it really quick. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to create a shape layer real quick, because this would be another way of doing this. So here's the ellipse tool. I want to make sure that it's a shape layer. It's going to be black just for the heck of it. Okay. So make sure that it is on top and that it is 100% opaque. And again, I got to change the properties of this. I don't want I want to change the fill to be black. There we go. And for the pixel width, I want this to be none. Okay. So I'm using a shape layer instead now. This is going to be used for my mask. And I can change with shape layers, which is kind of cool. Let's go ahead and look at the properties of the shape layer. Let's go ahead here. No, it's not giving me that option anymore. It used to be the case that I could change the shape layer to have to feather the edge of this. And it's not doing that anymore. So I'll be a monkey's uncle. They've changed it. And if it's here, I will come back to it and show you on another time. So let's look at the bounding box and see if it's here instead. Show details, show path options. What else do we have here? So I can change the width and the height. Let's look at, there we go. That's where it is. It's here. Here's my mask for that. And now I can feather that like so. So let's really crank that up. So it's a soft edge. Okay. So let's deselect the path. And now I'm going to turn on this layer and I'm going to put it on top. Okay, so it's on top of that shape layer. It should be. Where's my shape? Yeah, there we go. So there we go. So now what I can do is I can hold down the Option key and click between these, and it uses that shape layer as a mask. And now I can do pretty much the same thing. I can click on this image and I can hit, let's see, Command T. Let's see if I can do it this way, and I can shrink it down a bit. But the problem that I'm going to have with this is that if I change the opacity of this couple in here, I'm just going to see black underneath. So I'd have to change the opacity of that as well. But that does give me some options. So let's try and change the opacity of it and see what happens. Let's see if it works for us. Yeah, see, it's just going to black because it's revealing the underside of that as well. So if I, it has certain properties that work okay. I could, instead of normal, I could say, multiply. Is that going to work? Color dodge, overlay. No, that's not going to work. Soft light, hard light. No, you can try all of these as well. That's darken. How about lighten, linear, saturation, color, luminosity? You know, so far, if I would have to leave that, you know, pretty much, I can't see through to the background. So that's the problem I'm having with that. Okay, which with the other version that I did, I could. So we'll turn that off and we'll turn this one back on. And this allows transparency to the background itself. So in this particular instance, this would be the better choice of doing it this way. You're creating a layer mask and then adjusting it. And I can always adjust the feather quality of the mask itself. So before we finish up, we have 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the file so we can have a critique. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to go to Desktop and see. Let's go to the desktop and go to the most recent. And here's our postcard assignment. And let's go ahead and open it up. Come on. There we go. So let's take these apart here. Now, I'm going to come back to participants. I'm sorry. Remind me, whose was this again? Was this yours, Anna? This is yours, right? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, this is yours. Okay, so I did get it right. Okie doke. So tell us a little bit about the theme, and also tell us about the text, where you found the text effects or the text that you used and the patterns and that sort of thing. I think, and I'll give you my input.
Yes, this one I had done a drawing of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo in a different class, and I wanted to just incorporate that into a new image. So that's kind of what I did here. I just looked for a picture of a haunted house,
Okay.
and I just kind of went from there and just added some extra elements that was missing that I wanted into the picture. As
Okay.
for the text, I found actually like a 70s kind of feel theme. I forgot the name of what it was. But the following one was called like chilling, or yeah, chilling, which is
So
the frightening part there.
you found the typefaces online?
The pictures, yeah, except for the main drawing of Shaggy and Scooby.
Okay. But I mean, the text was already set, or you set it
No,
inside PowerShell?
I put in myself. Yeah.
Yeah, because it shows that it's a text layer. I don't have it on my computer, so I can't edit it. So that's okay. But I think that's nice. I think the feel that you have, your use of the text really enhances it a lot. The only thing that I have a question about is that, do you recall how big the image of the haunted house was? Because as I zoom in a little bit, you'll notice how blurry it is, or it's getting.
Yeah, it wasn't that big. I don't remember how big
Yeah.
it was, but yeah, I had to be very careful about that. So yeah.
So what you might want to do, and this would be my only criticism, is, and I don't know that it's a criticism so much as that it's a gotcha. And based on how we finished our movie poster today, and we enlarged the couple, you might want to try enlarging the haunted house the same way before you combine it with the Scooby-Doo characters in your text.
Yeah.
And that will take some of that blurriness away. That's the only thing that I think really detracts from your piece.
Got it.
So, so give that a try. I think what really makes it strong is your use of text. That really, I like your drawing of Scooby Doo and I forget, I don't know the character,
And Shaggy.
but yeah, they're drawn really well. So
Thank you.
that's a given. They work. But I think what really enhances it or really makes it pop, you might, yeah, I don't know that I was going to say try another effect on the Scooby-Doo characters. You could try a glow or something like that, but I don't know if that would be necessary.
I did use a little bit of that, a mixture of that with shadow and
Okay.
also tinting it, trying to match more with the background.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I did that with like everything else, like the bats and the clouds and the moon,
Right.
so they could all match up in there.
Okay. And that worked. But yeah, I think really that has a comic, a feel, type, that sort of thing. And it really, it pops and really enhances the piece and helps to draw your eye into it a lot. Because actually the characters are fairly subtle compared to the type and the glowing window in the haunted house. That I see those elements first. But the way you've designed, and I wasn't, it draws your eye back to the characters. I don't know that if you're aware of it, but if you can see that, you know, if we look at this, and typically, and I know that this sounds really kind of trite, but how you read pictures is in our Western culture is typically how we read books. You start in the upper left-hand corner and you go from left to right, and then you go work your way down. So if you look, I mean, you see that "Wish You Were Here" is a really strong element that draws your eye to the top. But then you'll notice that the lightning brings your eye down, and
Mm.
it brings your eye down, and you'll notice that the little scoops, these uh, elements in the roof, curve and bring your eye down a bit more. And I read the type down here, and I wasn't, and that draws my eye to Scooby Doo. And then you'll notice that over to the left, that roof line brings my eye back up, and the same with the lightning, back up to the type again. And so you're kind of working in a circular fashion as you read
Mm.
the piece. So that helps. The other thing is that it serves kind of like a target, is the glow in the window. It really is a hot spot or a center spot that really, centers everything. I don't know if you saw that before or not. You see the circle that's going on here?
Yeah, now that you pointed it out, I do see that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, those are important design elements to pay attention to. How, without, they're used in, have you had an art history class?
No.
No? Well, when you do, especially from the Renaissance on, composition is really, really critical in how you read those traditional kind of uh, historical paintings or religious paintings or allegorical paintings, because they tell a story and you're meant to read them in a very particular fashion and order. And you've done that without realizing what you've done. That's okay. But now you know, and that's kind of important. So that now when you work on other pieces, that you stand back and look at it, and or if sometimes as artists, when we look at pieces, we kind of develop myopia, nearsightedness. We can't really see the forest for the trees, that sort of thing, because we've been looking at it for so long.
Hmm.
So it's helpful sometimes if you have a friend or a parent or a grandmother or somebody look at it and see what they see. And they will see it from a fresh eye. And that will let you know if your composition sometimes is working or not. And yeah, it works fine. So
Thank
that's
you.
it. My only criticism is just to go back and take the haunted mansion and use the same technique that we did. Now, I don't know whether yours is going to be 400% or 200% or 600%, but the same technique that we use for enlarging the image of the people,
Hmm.
that couple, and try it with the haunted mansion and see if you don't get a better result.
Yes, I'll try that.
Okay. Okie doke. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? No? So are we done for today? I think so. I think I have everybody. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and let's go back to our end piece here. And, that's what this is supposed to look like. It's, I think their approach to doing the movie poster is pretty conservative. To be perfectly honest, I'd like to see something more conceptual and something really kind of outlandish. Something where you have experimented with filters and textures and layer effects and that sort of thing. Not go overboard with them, but use them in a unique fashion that really helps enhance the images that you use, especially if you're using some of your own images that maybe aren't the best images unless you've had a photography class. Or maybe that's the look that you're going for, that you want it to look kind of grungy or whatever. Because I have some of those images in my photo album that I would want to use and do that and really enhance that or crank it up a bit. So that's it for today. So you guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the recording and I'm going to say goodbye for now. And I'll wait for you guys to log off and then we'll be done for today. You guys have a good afternoon and a good weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. Now, also to let you know before too many of you leave, but I'll repeat this again on Monday. Wednesday, we're not going to have a webinar. We're just going to have Monday, and that's it. And then we'll go back to our regular Monday, Wednesday, the following week. Okay. Okie doke. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause and say goodbye for now. And that's it. You guys are welcome to hang around or go ahead and leave. Bye-bye.